This is the problem. If you give in to censorship, if you give in to this sort of cancel culture, if you try to behave according to someone else's set of rules, that flies in the face of free speech. And I don't agree with a lot of people on X, but I will sure as hell support their right to say it, even if I disagree with it.
A well-known Australian Jewish commentator has been permanently banned from X after falling victim to a persistent mass reporting campaign. Daniel, thanks for joining us. How'd you manage to get banned from X? It's the free speech platform. Pretty loose at times.
It's amazing. If I were the supreme leader of Iran calling for the total murder of 9 million Jews, we wouldn't be having this conversation. If I were a Holocaust denier, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But one of my posts, and my posts are spicy, I admit that, got my account banned the other day. And not suspended, not 7 days in the naughty corner, banned. And it was quite interesting when I was thinking, what did I say that was so bad? I then went back to the platform, just, in read-only mode. I can't post anymore. And I saw people actually gloating about it as though, they've knocked someone off the chessboard. And that's when I realized that Elon Musk and X have actually got a very serious problem, because on the one hand, it was touted as free speech, and I've been hugely supportive of that. But on the other hand, there are now organized activist groups who are engaging in a form of online cancel culture. And I don't believe X has actually kept up with that. So if you look at the post in question on the screen and you see what I actually wrote, is it spicy? Yes. But to be clear, I'm talking about a person who's engaged in a criminal form of protest, having scaled Big Ben. It's obviously a tongue-in-cheek post. No one could possibly take it seriously. But that was the post that they all coordinated and decided, let's all report this. So I wake up one morning and I got a text message from someone on my phone saying, have you blocked me on X? I can't DM you anymore. And I thought, that's weird. And I logged in and I got a note and then an email that said my account has been banned. And when I saw why, it was apparently for violent speech. Now, I've lost track of the number of posts that I have reported where they were disgraceful, Holocaust denial, or the most defamatory thing, calling people child molesters, calling for actual violence, disgusting stuff. And every single time you'd report it, within a few minutes, you'd get back an email saying, we've taken a look at it, there was nothing to see here. So it sounds to me like what's going on at X is they have some sort of threshold, and if they get enough reports about a post, they shoot first, they ask questions later. And that's actually what happens. So you can see this person, Marina, who shows the email. I say she, I don't know who it is. It could be a fat 45-year-old living in his parents' basement for all I know. On the internet, everyone's anonymous, but says that. And then you have a second person who's also gloating about it. So these people are really happy. Now, this was coordinated outside of X. There are Telegram groups, there are Signal groups. So, I looked up this person. I said, who is this person? I've never engaged with them. I've never threatened them. And I looked them up and, this is their bio. So this is a person who is a trans activist who is also all about free Palestine. Now, there's some cognitive dissonance if I've ever come across it, quite mad. And even proudly boasts the name of their local MP in there, because that's not strange at all. I mean, it happens to be Andrew Wilkie, who was formerly a member of the Greens, the country's most anti-Semitic party. So you can sort of guess this person's politics. And so they're obviously so offended, they're reporting it. Now, again, I don't know if it was that post or maybe that was just the last straw, because I have to say I have been suspended from the platform in the past. Like one earlier last year, it was the preparation for the gay and lesbian Mardi Gras in Sydney. And of course, you had groups like Queers for Palestine who, like that activist, don't sort of seem to realise how Hamas treats them. So, I posted this obviously tongue-in-cheek post that said, here are people preparing the Queers for Palestine post. And that got suspended as well. But wait till you see the reason that X actually gave for suspending me. They thought that that post was advocating suicide simply because it showed people being hanged. And in actual fact, it was not calling for suicide at all. It was condemning a violent culture that murders gay people. And I was using satire to make that point. But the problem is AI systems don't have a sense of humour. They don't understand wit. They don't understand satire. So when you appeal posts like that, within seconds you get back a thing saying, no, the appeal is denied. So I've now been cancelled. I had many, many thousands of followers, probably almost 17,000 followers. And to me, it feels a lot like old Twitter did before Elon Musk took it over and made it X.
I think if you read your last post on its own, I guess you can read it either way, but like you said, I have seen some pretty direct threats, and when reported, it automatically almost immediately returns a message saying it's been reviewed, nothing to see here, all good. So I agree with you. There must be an algorithm issue in which when you meet that threshold, then somebody maybe does have an actual look at it, or automatically they take it down. Because reading some of the posts that you have been previously suspended from before, it does seem to miss the punchlines of what is clearly a joke.
And I mean, I'm not an anonymous person. I mean, I post under my real name. I work for companies, my own company. I also work for media organizations. I'm not some anonymous coward. And of course, that makes me fairly responsible and careful about what I write. Now, people may not like it, of course, but that's a matter for them. And I mean, look, far be it from me to tell Elon Musk how to run his business, but it seems to me that you have people like me and like yourself, Avi, who have many, many thousands of eyeballs coming daily to the platform as followers. So that's revenue going to X. And I even pay a few bucks a month for the privilege. So I'm a verified user. And I'm attracting eyeballs to the platform. And I'm getting banned by a coordinated group of people who don't pay the money for a subscription and who only have a handful of followers each. So they're essentially rewarding people who hurt the platform, and they're punishing people that help the platform. And look, if it's going to be completely the Wild West and anything goes, and that includes disgusting stuff, well, you know what? Look, I am a supporter of free speech. I'm not a supporter of, click farms and bots that are promoting this stuff. I think that hurts speech. But I think if people want to say stupid things, they should be allowed to do that. To me, it's just the inconsistency of doing it. So, people like me, get banned for relatively innocuous tweet because we've upset, whether it's, the sort of rainbow activist groups, or whether it's the anti-Israel, anti-Semitic groups, or whether it's the sort of bizarre mix of both of them together. It's the inconsistency that's a real problem. And I think that hurts the platform, and it's something that Elon needs to fix, either putting on staff who can actually manually review things after an appeal and, who speak English, who understand nuance, who understand wit, who understand sarcasm, or training the AI better, or alternatively just saying, anything goes, come what may, and wearing the consequences here. Because what's happened here is it seems that a number of pro-Israeli accounts or anti-Hamas accounts have been cancelled. And I'm not prepared to go down without a fight, because I enjoy X. I make a contribution to it. I enjoy reading what other people do. But there's also a lot of people who would just turn away and go, stuff this. And I should say, I haven't been banned from Facebook. I haven't been banned from LinkedIn. I don't particularly find those platforms that entertaining. But if you're going to get punted from one, you may end up somewhere else.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess people would ask, after you got suspended for the first ones, which were clearly a joke, especially I've sort of found one of those tweets funny, although we probably have to blur it here so we don't end up getting banned for sharing a banned tweet. Yeah. But, it is kind of, it's easy to understand. It's, pointing out a glaring insanity of the woke left, gay, pro-Hamas constituents we've seen across the world, this phenomena of people who either don't care or don't know about what's going to happen if and when they get to Gaza. So it was clear it was a joke. But after you got suspended for that, why didn't you learn your lesson and not, because the last post that you posted was probably less obvious, I guess, than the previous one that got suspended. So why didn't you just pull your head in?
Well, why should I? That's really the whole point of it, because if people keep getting suspended or deplatformed for saying certain things, look, it does have a chilling effect on free speech, because people post less controversial opinions or fewer opinions or more mild posts. And the more that happens, eventually the platform becomes completely vanilla. LinkedIn is a great example of that. It is so rare on LinkedIn to see anybody posting anything even remotely controversial because they're worried about the impact it might have on their company or on their reputation. Now, most of that fear is completely misguided, but that's what they feel. So as a result, the platform itself is so boring, and it's nothing more than, people saying they're honored and humbled to win an award that they nominated themselves for. How does that create a marketplace of ideas? How does that create a discussion? So, and by the way, in respect to the question of, well, why didn't I learn my lesson? It should be noted that, several of those times when I was suspended, I did appeal it. And then eventually I get back at things saying, you know what, you're right, we made a mistake. There were other occasions when I put in an appeal and they'd say, we'll get back to you. Now, my option was I can delete the post and cop a 7-day penalty. But I was thinking, well, why should I do that? I've done nothing wrong. But I think by the 14th or the 21st or the 28th day that they still haven't responded to the appeal, eventually you just go, oh, look, this is too hard, you delete the post. But this is the problem. If you give in to censorship, if you give in to this sort of cancel culture, if you try to behave according to someone else's set of rules, that flies in the face of free speech. And I don't agree with a lot of people on X, but I will sure as hell support their right to say it, even if I disagree with it. The biggest problem for me are these sort of organised bot farms that are saying certain things, and I think that's a problem for speech. But this whole approach to moderating it is just a disaster, and I think it really does fly opposite to what Elon said. I mean, Elon's platform himself was recently that, there's denial of service attempts to take him off air, and he was saying that, there are people trying to cancel the platform. Well, how do you like that? Because that's exactly what you did to me. And I don't think it was good for free speech. I don't think it was good for marketplace for ideas. And I think it's also rewarding some pretty awful people and encouraging that sort of behaviour.
What would you say to, because I see it often on X, ironically, where they complain about the fact that, you can't criticise Israel. That's the one subject you can't criticise, and all the anti-Israel activists that are on there saying that you can't criticise Israel seem to be able to almost be able to say whatever they want. But they do claim that people do get censored. It's weird because my timeline's full of anti-Israel hate, so I don't know who's getting kicked off there. But do you think it's also happening on the other side? And do you know people from the pro-Israel camp that are actually other people that have been censored?
Look, I'll be honest and say I have certainly reported posts, and I would take pleasure if some of them came offline. But to be clear, they weren't people who were just criticising Israel or supporting the rights of Palestinians, which, I do as well. These were people who were engaging in genuine Holocaust denial or the most outrageous defamatory things. I mean, I know you've been a victim of that as well yourself. So I think sort of suggesting that was a problem is fairly reasonable. But of course, it came back and said no offence detected here. So, you know what, I pretty much sort of gave up reporting things now. I just sort of roll my eyes and move on. And look, I don't know, maybe that's a good thing. But it seems that what happens, and I mean, I also know a lot of other people who've, they've started second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth accounts. But, those only ever get to a small handful of followers. So it seems once you get to a certain threshold, a certain platform, a certain audience, that's when you become a target for these people. And of course, you're quite right. They all act like there's some giant Jewish conspiracy to stop anyone talking about Jews. And I mean, they don't realize that every time they post that in public and that post stays there, it sort of completely disproves their point. But it's very hard to argue at a logical, rational level with people who are fundamentally illogical and irrational and think that every problem in their own life is the fault of someone else. And, today it's the Jews, tomorrow it's Indians, it could be anyone, rather than sort of taking a look at themselves. I mean, let me tell you something. If the vast Zionist conspiracy controls social media, controls Twitter, controls X, controls the media, well, my account wouldn't have been cancelled, would it? But here we are.
If you think it's important for people to know what's happening right now online on X, the free speech platform, make sure to like, comment, but most importantly, share it, especially on X, and tag Elon. Try to get his attention because I reckon he doesn't even know what's happening. And then head over to followavi.com. Make sure to subscribe to our mailing list and follow me across all socials in case one day the same thing happens to me. followavi.com.